You were born in the Philippines, but when you were a little girl, you moved with your family to Canada. These days, you work as a product designer and you live with your family in Toronto, but you're engaged to somebody in Vancouver. Which Canadian city is actually better? And what if it's actually Montreal? You'll have to listen to find out. This is one of my favorite conversations I've ever had. Let's get into it. Hey, popping in top of the episode for a special announcement. I'm building out the Home Life Design Lab course as we speak. It'll be a month-long live experience focused on transforming your home life. Transforming your home from being a place of stagnation to consistent growth, from loneliness to deep connection, and from bored exhaustion zonked out in front of the TV to really inspired impact in the world around you. Though TV watching will always be allowed. No way I'm taking that away from anybody. And you'll get to do it with some really interesting folks around the world. It's going to be good. This course will be a few $100 in the future, but annual premium subscribers to the Home Life Design Lab newsletter are going to get it completely for free as a bonus. If you sign up by March 31st to be an annual premium subscriber to the newsletter, you'll get this as a free bonus. So check out the link in the show notes because I want to see you in this course. Consider it. I would love to see you there. Enough with this. Let's get on with the episode. Hello and welcome. This is Home Life for Extraordinary Impact. On this show, you're going to witness some raw in-the-moment research I'm doing with experts and everyday people all around the world. What am I researching? One central question. How do you design your life at home for growth, connection, and making your greatest impact in the world? On this podcast, I'm going to be doing that research, and you can follow along with my analysis and findings on the Home Life Design Lab newsletter. I'll tell you more a little bit later about how you can subscribe to that. I'm Matt Barrios. I'm a dad, a husband, and a researcher and writer. I'll be your host today as we explore the topic of home life. I get to have a special guest with us. Her name is Angco. Ali was actually my instructor, my teacher during a UX design research boot camp that I went through Memorizely. She just did a great job of helping me get my bearings on what design research looks like, and I'm so thankful that she was down to do this interview. So, Ali, thanks for participating in this with me and being down to be a person I chat home life with. Thank you.
I was super excited to be contacted. This fulfills my podcast fantasies. So I will take any opportunity to be on a podcast. Yeah.
Everybody who's listening, just reach out to Ali nonstop.
Yeah,
we'll figure out
anything.
How to contact her. Anything at all. Fantastic.
Even if I know nothing,
I love it.
I'll just talk.
Yeah. That's an important skill to have in life. I'm that way too. So, Ali, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, things that you'd love for people to know about you? And so people have a little bit of who is Ali?
Yeah. So my name is Ali, as Matt said. I currently live in a tiny, tiny town near Toronto. By day, I'm usually in Figma. I'm a product designer. Even sometimes teaching UX research, like what Matt mentioned earlier. But honestly, by night and weekends, I love being at home. I am a homebody. I shamelessly tell people about it. I'm usually stuck at home. Not stuck. I choose to be stuck at home, eating a bag of chips, reading books with a blanket, preferably a weighted one. But yeah, okay. That's me.
So really talking to you about home is really a sweet spot conversation.
I hope so.
I love it. That's so great. Well, what we're going to do, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Some of them are this stuff as a design reader, they're kind of consistent across the people who I'm talking to in order to get at similar insights or questions and queries, right? So first question that I'm asking everybody is, what are the places that you've called home throughout your life?
So background on me, I moved to Canada when I was 8. I was 8 years old. I came from Manila. So of course there's that vague memory of what the Philippines is, and I always will consider that home. But if I truly think about my day-to-day home, I actually bounce between 3 cities in Canada. I think it's ever since the pandemic hit and work from home became a normal thing, I found that I would bounce between my current home, which is near Toronto, and then just because this is where I grew up, all that stuff. But also I've been bouncing between Vancouver, which is on the West Coast, simply because my fiance lives there. So I have to see him. We take turns visiting. Important. So I have 2 homes. I actually just came back 2 days ago from there. And then the third home would be this would be If I could do anything in my life, I would move to this city, and that's Montreal in Canada. For those that are unfamiliar with Canadian cities, Montreal is in the French province of Canada. So French is like the primary language. I'm obsessed with French culture. Love it all. So I go there for like
That's awesome.
inspiration. Yeah.
That's so cool. I've never been to Montreal, but everybody I've talked to, they're like huge fans of Montreal. They're
Yeah.
like,
I think during
yeah,
the pandemic, because we were stuck with whatever you could drive to, like airplanes are kind of the tricky part in 2020, right? And so my family, when we could, when it wasn't an intense lockdown, we would just drive to Montreal, and it felt like you're in a different country. Because of
hmm
course, French, everything's different language, culture is different, food's different. Well, food's not that different, but food is better.
it's better. Huh?
So it feels different. Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. I'll have to visit. And which of those places, in it seems like the different places unlock different parts of you, right? So Montreal is like where you go to get creative and inspired. What does Vancouver do for you? What does your home in Toronto, near Toronto, do for you?
I mean, other than for Vancouver, other than because my loved one is there. Um,
Love, romance.
yes, romance. But actually, I was thinking about this recently because there's always, at least in my circles, there's always been a debate between Toronto versus Vancouver. There's like a subtle drama between the two that apparently we don't like each other. I think it's just two big cities being upset. It's like the typical East Coast, West Coast.
Sure.
And so me being a Toronto person, I really have to be like, give this city a chance. I think the beauty of Vancouver, other than having my loved one there, is it is truly like if you wanted to combine your outdoor life with the city life, you get best of both worlds because Toronto is just very good at city life. But Vancouver, you can get enough of both where like you could just drive out in 30 minutes and the hike is ready. Like beautiful mountain
Yeah.
scenery, all of that. But then if you're ready to go for drinks, you can just go drive away again for maybe 20 minutes and you'll find something. So I would say,
Yeah.
other than outdoorsy and the love of my life being there, not bad. Not bad of a city.
Yeah, there's some my wife was in New York when we were dating long distance and everything, and one of the things that she said is she had a compelling personal reason to move to San Francisco, right, to
Mm,
live closer to me.
yeah,
So, and that was the compelling personal reason. That's my claim to
I
fame.
should talk to
So
her because that's such a good way to put it. A compelling personal reason.
that's what she was telling people who she was like interviewing for
Yeah,
jobs with. Like, yeah, when you're willing to like uproot your life and move closer to your partner,
yeah.
right? Like it can, not everybody understands that, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, it happens, and you also, Anyways, I digress. Um, so yeah, it's awesome to hear those different places. And now, this home that you're living in, even though I hear that you're sort of splitting your time, but the place where you currently are, um, tell us, give us a little picture of that place. Like you get home, you put down your keys, or, give us a little walkthrough of that.
So I still live in my family home. This is essentially where I lived since I was in high school. I think what made home beautiful is one, I have a strong relationship with my parents,
Hmm.
but also they keep renovating this place. So it feels nice, Matt. Like, in this video, you could just see, like, I don't even know what these are called. Uh,
Oh,
molding?
that like, yeah, the mole. Yeah, you're pointing at this like
Yes.
line on the
We have
wall
like
that's
these
like a
New
bunch of
York
glitter.
loft inspired. I don't know, I'm making this up, but like my dad did this. You can't see here, but above me, he installed like cedar planks on the ceiling.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they've done well since. And so for me, like home is essentially like a representation of how my family has grown and become comfortable in Canada. But it's also just a place that I love so much. So if you walk in, you would see the renos that they've done, and which I'm very proud of. But also too, it's just a breath of fresh air, which is kind of weird because you're going inside. But I guess like it's really a place where I could be myself and really do the hobbies that I love to do that really like fill my cup.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you really want me to put into detail what my house looks like.
No, I mean that's awesome. So what I'm hearing is like, it's like a nice space. It's been renovated over time. There's a family home feel, and you've got good relationships with your family. So luckily, that makes for it to feel like a really
Mhm,
peaceful place. And even what that is fascinating though, like it feels like a breath of fresh air. You mentioned earlier that you kind of identify as a homebody,
mhm.
right? Would you say more about how that space helps you be a homebody?
Yeah, I think to me, it feels like a breath of fresh air because it sounds funny. The image I have is like sometimes I'll have to go out. Maybe it's meeting other people I'm mentoring. Maybe it's for work. And there are just parts of yourself that you're not always going to be vulnerable about. Like you're not going to, the version of me that I show at home is not going to be the version of me that I show to my mentees, right? And so it's almost like I have to take a deep breath and like hold it in and be this person and really approach them where they need me to be. And then when I come home, it's like I can finally exhale and I can return back to like who I am. And so that's why I would call it a breath of fresh air, really. Yeah.
You mentioned relationships with mentees outside of the home, and that definitely is the kind of relationship where you're there for them,
For
right?
them. Yeah.
Yes,
And you always have
but
to
your
watch
home
out.
is there.
Like what you say, they might have a different path in life. And so you have to be like ready to, you're by their side. Like you're not pointing where to go, but you're just accompanying them. Be like, okay, these are the questions you have. So I try my best like not to insert myself, right? So yeah.
That makes sense, because you're being a great coach, supporter, mentor. Help them get where they need to go, where they're wanting to go. Versus, it sounds like your home is for you. Like that's where you get to exhale and be relieved and delight in that space. And you mentioned doing hobbies. What are your hobbies?
Yeah. So I love to cook. So finally, my collection of spices are back with me. My collection of pots and pans are back with me. As I mentioned earlier, I just came back from Vancouver, and I had to like be okay with cooking with just like two sets of like two pots and one pan, and so that limits. Like, I mean, a really good chef could cook anything, but like I can't really bake in a Teflon pan. Like that just removed that option. But
Doesn't work that way.
yeah, so I love to cook. Hands down, reading is huge. So as much as I travel with my e-reader, I still have a bunch of books. Like I love buying thick books. So the thick books stay at home, but the thin books stay with me in my Kindle. And so there's just certain like books that I wanted to refer back to, like whether it's for design work or anything like that, that sit at home. So just cuddling up to that is always a delight. But those are the top two that I really miss. I was like, I miss cooking in my own kitchen, and I miss finishing that thick book I left a month ago. I hope I remember what's happening in that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, cooking and reading. Gosh, I mean, those are like prime
Homebody.
activities.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I see why those, like, if those are your favorite things to do, I see why home's the place for you.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So, you mentioned, part of what you're reading is like design stuff, and your job is you are a product designer at Shopify, and which is an awesome job. It's way to go, like to get to work in product design. I find it because what I'm doing this project is thinking about the way people design their home lives, right? So, when I say even the phrase "design your home life," what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I think there's like two ways about it. I think there's one way to design it physically, right? There are like the physical things you put in your house because you think house, home, all of that. But I think the other way for me is definitely routine. So I'm a person of routine. Actually, this morning I was slowly kicking back up my routine, and suddenly I felt like myself again. Because there are things that I had to sacrifice. Like for instance, I'm the crazy person that goes to the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah,
I
love it.
Oh no, Matt, you're frozen.
Oh no, let's see.
Oh no. Okay.
Well,
I think we're good.
we had a brief technical lapse, everybody listening or watching, but all is good and return to normal. So, yeah, the physical space and the routines,
Yes.
which is maybe like the time space on some level.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So like,
you go ahead.
yeah.
I'd love to hear more.
When I was referring to like the time routine, there were pieces of it that I had to let go when I was out in Vancouver and Montreal. Number one, I mean, I could still do it there, but it's not as easy. So for instance, like I am the person that goes to the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning. Like, it's just like part of me there. And I know the gym perfectly. You could argue that could be my other home. I know exactly which squat rack to go to because at this time, no one's there. And so when I was in Vancouver, I had to get used to like waiting for a squat rack because there was only like one. I had to like change my routine a little bit so I could like walk there, walk back from there. Another big thing for me is, so I'm Catholic, and something I'm really trying to do more is actually go to mass every day, because it's like the only time I can have quiet in the morning. And so it's like my way of forcing myself to like pray and really be with God. And so I could technically do that in Montreal and Vancouver, but I would have to find the perfect church that matches my schedule. And so some churches just don't have a mass in the morning. Like they might have it in the evening, or they might have it like during my workday when they'll have it at 9 a.m. when I should be logged on to Shopify at 9 a.m. So it's like, when I'm at
Yeah.
home, it's like perfect. I've fine-tuned everything to like fit nicely. And that's home to me, right? Where the things that I really want to do and like fill up my cup are possible.
Hmm. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Um, yeah, I think it's interesting to think about those routines, like physical exercise, spiritual wellness
Hmm.
and, groundedness and worship and that kind of thing. Like that just sounds like, uh, you know, in some ways, it sounds like you're trying to find the routines or rhythms that can enhance like each dimension
Yeah.
of who you are, right?
Yeah.
Like your physical self, your spiritual self, your relational self with your
Yeah.
family, your relational self with, your fiance, and so on. Um, yeah. So, would you say more about like the routines and kind of like the ways that they support your, your self development?
That's actually a beautiful way you put it. Like choosing little bits of everything so that every dimension of your well-being is like improving every day rather than like just choosing, oh, every Sunday is when I will go to church or every Sunday is when I can do yoga because every it girl does yoga on a Sunday to reset, right? But imagine if you're just tackling it like bit by bit every day instead of feeling like cramming in all of your rest on the weekend. Actually, that's another practice that I'm trying to do is like making sure that on Sunday is purely like no work. So because I do so many things in terms of work, also teaching, sometimes, for when I teach, we have to create some social media content. Sometimes Saturdays become my catch up day. And before I
Yeah.
would let that bleed into Sunday. But I actually had a friend, I would ask him, like, what are you doing this Sunday? And he said, I don't know. I said, oh, like, are you doing groceries? He's like, no, that's not allowed. I said, wait, what do you mean? He goes, I only spend it in person with friends, or I spend it at home reading a book, or I'm just resting. Like I'm not gonna. He purposely chooses not to like even do chores, and so tried doing that, and it actually works, Matt. Because by
Wait,
Monday
what does
I'm
it work?
like,
Like, why do you?
by Monday I'm good. Like I'm really rested. How often do you think that resting is? I thought resting was going on social media and just scrolling, but that's not true rest because you're really like
Hmm,
you're thinking a lot. You just consumed like 1,000 different ideas at once, and your brain's like, do you even remember any of that? And you're like, no. But there's a great song
interesting.
that's stuck in my head. But with Sundays, I implemented like this rest stuff, and on Monday, I feel more like. I mean, I know I've been saying the word rest over and over again, but I feel like I could tackle more again on a Monday.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think this is an interesting theme around rest because that is um, part of what I think home provides in a very unique way
Hmm.
is rest. And yeah, like when you're like trying to really be in like rest mode, uh, what are the things that you do? How does that look for you?
Definitely, it's spending time with my parents. With my fiance being long distance, we usually end up like, hey, we'll watch a movie online together, or we'll just talk for hours and hours. But it's really my time to spend. Like it's social time. It turns out, but like appropriate
Hmm.
social time. It's not like I'm partying. As a homebody introvert,
Sure.
that's like the worst thing you could do.
Put you in
But
a loud room with a lot of dancing
yeah, no,
people,
not
and
that
yeah,
everyone.
not
As
your
I
thing.
mentioned before, even Matt, what you said earlier about like tackling these dimensions like through the daily life. I think because I've made sure to tackle like my physical health as well as my spiritual health, my career and like what I do in terms of creative stuff, because that stuff is touched evenly or properly in the weekdays, I can shamelessly just rest and spend time with people on Sundays because they go to work. So yes, I work from home, but I'm like the only body in here between like 8 to 6. So I kind of make up for the social stuff, especially with my loved ones on Sundays,
Hmm.
which is beautiful for me because otherwise I would rather spend it with them than be on my phone scrolling, right? So
Sure, sure. You mentioned like the phone is actually the scrolling phone, social media, black hole that all of us fall into all the time, right? As actually being detrimental to rest.
again,
Why do you think that is? I don't know. Why do you think it is that way? Plus, like, how does that affect you when you do fall into those holes?
I mean, unfortunately, I am not a psychologist. Maybe
Sure.
in another
Yeah.
life, but I mean, I've heard things about it, I mean, your attention span, how much can you really understand in a moment? Actually, a very good book that I read as a homebody, you may have heard of it, Stolen Focus. I lost the
Never heard.
author, but Stolen Focus, he just talks about how all of the technology that we've created has essentially robbed us of what our true capacity to focus as humans. And you can even see
Wow.
it in the discussions that we have with people, how we tackle problems, our inability to focus in other ways of life, for example, in social media, because there's like new content every like what? How long is a TikTok? I think max 30 seconds. There has to be something brand new every 30 seconds. Our brain just doesn't know how to focus longer for 30 seconds. If you're having a tough argument with your spouse and it's for more than 30 seconds, can your brain focus on the problem at
It
hand,
better,
right?
right?
I hope so.
Yep.
But I think his
Yeah.
thesis is like, because we've trained ourselves to have such short attention spans, we're missing out on these other moments where we could really focus and invest our thinking and energy into producing like better outcomes. And I was like, that's a fair thesis because I see
That
it.
is interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And now you are a product designer for an e-commerce company,
Hmm.
e-commerce tech company. And you're trying to design a product for the internet, for technology and people's phones and whatnot, in order to help it be, functional and solve a problem for people and all of that, right? Now, I think it's interesting, this conversation around tech with a person who works in tech, right?
Mm,
And the way tech interacts with home life, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, what connections do you see between, your work in tech product design and this homebody, want to rest part of you.
Hmm. I think when this topic comes up, I definitely had to force myself to reflect on, do I want to be part of that, I guess, that power, right? Do I really want to contribute to the crazy attention span stealing products? I mean, I personally do not, right? I really had to talk to myself and figure out, Ali, you have these creative abilities. Like, where do you want to like use it? In the words of, oh shoot, I'm gonna butcher it. I'm just thinking of Uncle Ben, Spider-Man. With
Oh
great
yeah,
power comes great responsibility.
that's the one.
I
Yep.
was like, can I even remember it and say it on the spot? I think about that, right? Because we can all choose how we use our talents and all that stuff. And so there's that one piece of it where I'm thinking, am I using this to really better someone? Personally, for me, social media is not it for me. I'll just say it out there.
Sure.
But the reason why I joined Shopify was I love a local business. I love self starters like what you're doing, Matt. And so I was like, you know what? I want to help those people out because these people go through, it's tough opening a store, a business. It's tough. Or any project. You invest your life into it, hoping that it can grow into what you envision it to be. And I said, I'd rather help those people out in whatever way I can. So if it means being in tech and being a product designer to help people live out their dreams in that sense, that's much better for me. So
Hmm.
I guess all I'm trying to say is there comes a point in every tech person's life where they really have to reflect, like, is this really like, are these the people I want to help? Do I really want to be part of the story? And luckily, books like Stolen Focus, or there's another book called Ruined by Design that's also very good. Just things about design ethics. And I read that earlier on in my career. And so I said, okay, like I have to figure out my values and where I want to go. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's a tangent. But I mean, I
No,
haven't.
I
If I
think
could find a product that's all about the home, I mean, like I'm sure I can. Thermostats, security cameras,
there's probably all sorts
the
of them. There's no
Furbo
doubt about
thing for the dog. Those are apps for the home. Yeah.
yeah, there's all sorts of, yeah, it's wild. Oh man. Yeah. Gosh, I was, thanks for just kind of going down that path with me, because I was just curious, because I think it is something that a lot of people wrestle with in their own way, like their relationship with technology. But I think as a person who's part of the process of designing the technology that we're all using, you probably have to work at it on a different level, which is, I'm glad that you're reading a book on like the ethics of
Hmm.
technology and design, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's great.
And I think for the longest time, I thought it was just up to me that it'll be, as a user, I just had to set my screen limit and be like, yes, the power is back in my hands. These tech products don't have a hold on me. But I personally think they don't really do the work. Like, I think we still have to go back to the companies and the designers and the developers and be like, hello,
Yeah.
like, I think we need your help to slow us down because you are more powerful than us. That algorithm is just, yeah. So I hope
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone can just pause. And at the end of the day, if they're like, no, this is what I choose to do, then I'll be like, then so be it. You've chosen it. But at least we've all
Right.
paused and like reflected and understood what we're about to take on.
Yeah, and flex your freedom in that direction if you want.
For
But
sure.
like the importance is like, to even have the awareness, as you and I are talking
And
about, that like, oh,
intention.
you get to choose
Hmm.
to get the dopamine hits and be distracted by technology
Yeah,
endlessly. And what does that do? Does that produce the thing that you want, or do you want to, slow down and cook a meal that you get to savor, and be in your home and read a book, or
yeah,
and ultimately, I think we we put those in balance in a way that is functional for us,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's this. Thanks for engaging that. Slight hard right turn now. I kind of want to play like something of a game with you,
Mm.
get in this like product design state of mind that I
Yeah.
know you can pop right into. Um, One of the questions I'm asking people is like when home life goes sideways, what's happening for you? Which is kind of a way to investigate what are those like pain points around home life
Mm.
that you might run into.
Um, Sideways. I'm trying to imagine what the worst. I mean, okay, I have to think of a moment when life went sideways at home. I got COVID during Christmas.
Yeah.
So that's like as sideways as you could get. This was supposed to be the first Christmas for a lot of people in Toronto where we could shamelessly go to people's houses. For I think in 2020 we were locked down. I think 2021 we were only allowed like 5 people, something like that. So this year for 2022, so previous, we were finally just allowed to go, like just go. But then I got COVID. So- and then I gave it to my brother, you know?
Oh no.
So what made it sideways was like, this is finally the time I can go out and participate in the social aspect of spending time with people, celebrating Christmas. Um, and I had to be trapped in my room. My mom would have to bring down food for us. So I couldn't even like get the drinks I wanted. Like I wanted to make cold brew because I was craving cold brew. I couldn't even do that. They wouldn't let me go upstairs.
Oh no.
And so what I'm trying to say is home life goes sideways when
It
the
does.
place that you're supposed to be able to be yourself couldn't even be that,
Hmm.
right? I couldn't do
And
the habits like I wanted to do or the things that brought me
yeah.
joy. I could not even do that in my own home, which was supposed to be the place to do that.
Yeah. And since what I hear, like you know, the things that you love most about home are things like cooking and socializing, connecting with family and all of
Mhm.
that. For there to be this really clear barrier of your health and COVID,
Yeah.
right? That gets in the way. Um, I get how that would be annoying for one thing, but also just disappointing,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like to have like that at that moment where it seems like, oh, we've been waiting for this moment for things to be open
Yes.
in the Christmas season and everything, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like if product
So
design wise, if your user had a goal, I could not do any of my goals. I just was stuck. I couldn't even recover from trying to like try again to go outside. You can't. You're stuck. Look,
yeah,
you're just waiting for that COVID test to change. And the worst part now was I was full energy. Like I wasn't sick. Like I was like
too bad.
I could have I wanted to go for a walk. Like luckily we had a treadmill downstairs. I was on the treadmill. Because
That's funny.
I was just like I have so much energy and time and I can't even yeah. Anyways.
That's too bad. Gosh. Well, first of all, I'm sorry that happened to you. That's a bummer. Uh, I'm glad you bounced back, and
Mhm.
also that it didn't hit you too bad. So that's very good news. Now, getting this like our game being this product design state of mind. So we're talking about how like some of your objectives, hopes, goals that you would have for your home are things like socializing, cooking, and so on and so forth. This gets in the way. It seems like you actually kind of did self-design some solutions there for you
Mhm.
to get by. It's not as great as what you
Yeah.
wanted, but what sort of state of mind did you have to be in order to find those solutions?
I think one, I just had to accept where I was, right? Um, I think there's two parts to it. The beauty of it is at least my brother got it too. So at least we got to hang out.
It's a plus.
So it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But that also meant like, hey, if I'm always stuck at home, because or at least in my room because of COVID, there were certain things I already did with my phone anyways. For instance, calling my fiance was easy. That meant like just doing what we usually do times 10. So watching more movies together, watching more
Yeah.
shows together, right? And so I just had to be like, okay, what's within my power here? And I just reminded myself this is rest. So going back to this idea of like of rest. So during this time I had just started at Shopify. So December 5th I started. And then we went on holidays. So the company went on vacation. So in a way I was like, this is actually pretty genius during the holidays. It sucks that I can't go out, but sometimes with the seasons of Christmas, like you get caught up in, I have to drive here, see family here, make sure all the gifts are bought. Like you even get wrapped up in that stress. And so some ways COVID also forced me to be like, no. You're going to celebrate Christmas at home. You probably have to live stream everything, but now I really had to like focus on what I had, right? Instead of being distracted by traffic, snow,
Yeah. Yeah.
social demands of being in groups of 17 where I'm like, oh, as an introvert, that's too much.
Too many. 17's your threshold, huh? So I I think like the mindset that I'm hearing in that is like acceptance,
Mhm.
also some level of appreciation for what opportunities were
Yeah.
created
Yeah.
by, by the sideways, by the issue, right? Kind of being grateful for what was there,
Yeah.
this opportunity to connect with your brother and talk with your fiance
Mhm.
more and so on. Like
And if your
that's
home is
real.
really your home, it should have enough of what brings you, like, I guess, peace, right? Like, I hope that. So eventually, we're planning to move out next year, my fiance and I, and live together. And I'm thinking, like, I tell him, I'm like, Ian, I would love to build a home that we love. Because, there are times where some people don't have a home they love, whether it's because of
Yeah.
personal reasons or just because it's not exactly like the way they've designed it, right? Or how they
Yeah.
imagined it to be. They just couldn't make it come into fruition. And so all I can hope is that anyone out there, even if they're stuck at home, that there's still elements of it that they just love at home. So,
Yeah. That's great. And hopefully not just for like homebody types, but a person who wants to like be out and about all the time,
mhm.
that they would come home to a place that they're like, oh, I love this place.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's great. And also, if you're interested in like designing a home life that you love, I've got the podcast for you. So
Oh, really?
yeah, you happen to be on it right now.
Oh, great.
So, so this is great. So, speaking of like that home life that you love, when home life's just going tip top, prime, you're in love with it, everything's perfect. It feels like heavenly. Like, would you describe that? What's happening? What's that ideal situation look like?
Mhm. So I would say it's definitely a mix. I'm like, I have to close my eyes to imagine.
Great.
So I come home. I think number one, I would have to hear my mom in the kitchen. Um, I think my mom is a fantastic cook. I can only aspire to be like her. Um, I should start. I mean, I always cooked. Anyways, that's besides the point. Um,
Mhm.
Sometimes she gets into these grooves where she's just making a lot of food. She loves to feed people, and just hearing her in the kitchen just constantly allows me, like, mom is up and is in her element. Love that.
Mm.
And so for me, that is home. Just knowing that, like, she's there, she's in her element, and I'm probably gonna eat something beautiful later. I think the second part is obviously a clean home. I am now blessed with my father. He's a fantastic person who, like, he's taught me a lot of cleaning techniques. And so I know that clutter is put away and that I can participate in that, of course. I'm not saying I'm spoiled, everyone. I also do the cleaning and the cooking in this house. I'm just saying, if it was like, I just came home from a vacation or something, what does home look like? Um, and clutter plays a big deal in my mind space. I'm sure with other folks too. I don't know, Matt, if you feel the same way, but organized clutter is preferred than any clutter. And of course, it's
Yeah.
just like filling up a home with the things I love, right? With the people I love. So whether it's my family, friends, or just like the items that calm me down, aka my books, my bed, my plants. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really like the relationships with
Yeah.
people that you love and trust, your family who you have a great relationship with. It sounds like, uh, you know, good food, a decluttered living
Mhm.
environment, having some of the possessions that you treasure, like
Yeah.
good books and so on. Yeah.
I used to think that like possessions were like a bad thing. This was when like minimalism was like popping. Like everyone
Yeah.
wanted to
Right. Right.
only own like 3 black shirts, right? But recently, but recently, so when I was in Vancouver, I was in a neighborhood with a lot of local boutiques, and when no one else, when I was on my own, like I had a Friday after work, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna walk up and down this street. For those listening, interested, I'm just talking about Main Street in Mount Pleasant. And it's full of a lot of consignment stores, thrift stores, but also like small businesses. And so me, being a person that works at Shopify, I can't help but be like, what do they use here? Like, do they use the
You're
Shopify
doing
system?
research. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. So sort of research. But also at the same time, like I would find stores that just buy from other local artists. So I'm currently in a phase where I am obsessed with soap, like bar soap and plates, like serving plates.
Hmm.
Very particular. I think it's because I know I can use them for a long time. Um,
Mhm.
and so one time I was walking, and then I just walked into this place. Her name is Kate Metten or Metten. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her last name right, but she makes ceramics. And it turns out I was in her studio slash store. So it's a tiny little store where I would say about 60% of it is actually like her studio. So when you go in, she's actually making ceramics. So if you need something from her, she'll have to wash her hands and go up to you. Yeah, It's beautiful.
That's
Um,
impressive.
it's
How
so
interesting.
impressive, and I can't help but be like, first of all, I love her stuff, and second of all, I now not only have a plate that I love that I could use to host with, or like serve food with, but I also have the story and a personal connection. So I used to think, once again, possessions were just things that you like accumulate because you wanted it or that TikTok showed you needed it. But lately, I've been really shifting to like, what does this item remind me of? Do I have a cool story behind it other than it fitting my dinner party fantasies? But like, now I could be
Yeah.
like, oh, I bought this thing from an artist in Vancouver, and I remember visiting her, I think twice. And she would tell me like, oh, come back next week. I have something else coming in, all that stuff. I even talked to her about her website, if she should go to Shopify. Like, I didn't do that on purpose, Matt. I wasn't walking
Yeah.
around trying to convert people, but now I have a personal story, right? I know who made this item, and I get to have it at home. Yeah. So
That's
that's what I
cool.
meant by like possessions that you love, because it's like, oh, these things
Hmm.
actually mean things to me, not just something I bought off Amazon. But yeah.
Yeah. They're storied, and
Yeah.
they've got some sort of sentiment connected to them,
Mhm.
and like people downplay the value of sentimental value of things,
Yes.
right?
I used to
Yeah.
downplay it, but now I'm all about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's great. Um, okay. I want to ask another question that's we've kind of touched on it a little bit already, but if there's any kind of rituals, habits, rhythms that are normal for you in your home that you do in order to kind of like help you be at your best, what are those usual rituals or habits or rhythms that you do?
Yeah. I would say on a daily basis, once again, going to the gym first thing in the morning is huge for me. Um, I find that if I don't go, I just like, it's the hardest thing in my day, right? I could sit all day in front of the computer, but making me lift all that weight could be hard. And so just
Yeah.
accomplishing something that early in the morning, um, it really just shows me like, oh my gosh, I'm capable of doing hard things. Like if I am capable of doing that this morning, who knows what I could do later, right?
That's cool.
So that's one. And then I would say two, on a daily basis, some sort of like daily prayer is important to me. So I mentioned earlier, whether it's going to church for mass or just reflecting. So I'm a big journaling person. I actually made a mistake. This is when I knew this is important. So when I was in Vancouver, I purposely did not pack my journal because I was
Mm.
like, oh, it's another thing in my carry on. I already have all these things. Like, I don't need it. It was awful, Matt. Like, I had to like, because being a person that loves to reflect, I don't know if you've heard of the temperaments, but I'm a
No.
huge like, so there's four temperaments, like melancholy, sanguine,
Oh, I see. Yeah, like the
the
classical, like
classical
Elizabethan
ones.
era
Yeah, yeah,
temperaments.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a hardcore melancholy. Like I before
Okay.
Myers-Briggs existed in my life, I heard about that one first, and I was like, easy, that is me. So I am a
Great.
person that loves to reflect. Like I think that's why I love conversations like this. Reflection is a huge part of my day. And so whether it's spiritual reflection, aka by through prayer, or just really like journaling and processing, it makes such a huge difference in my day as well. Um,
Hmm.
because there's so many things to be thankful for, so many things to realize how far you've come. And sometimes you just have so many things in your head that you're like, what am I thinking about? Like, what is it really? What is the ache in my heart right now that's gnawing at me? What is it? And once I figure that out, or at least once I try to figure that out during the day, there's at least some sort of like, okay, things are falling into place. Things are piecing together that now I can be more open to work or maybe like people around me, whether it's mentoring, teaching, or being with family and friends. So those two on a daily basis, huge for me.
That's cool. Yeah. So if the gym time and lifting heavy weights is like, okay, I can accomplish hard things, and I've got a win under my belt. Now let's get on with the day. This other side that is kind of like the opposite. It's not like about physical strenuous, work. It's actually about like slowness, stillness, reflection,
Yeah.
things like prayer and journaling, almost like a fully internal mental,
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and those things add up to kind of a well-rounded. I'm open to my day, to my work, to the people around me.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And what's crazy is I get that all done before like 9 a.m.
Mm.
I don't know if I'll ever have this luxury again. Perhaps this is what it means to work from home and also like not have children yet. So you can tell
Sure.
me later on how to rearrange my schedule to fit those. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll have lots to say about what it's
Yeah.
like to shift to life with the
We'll
kids,
talk
but
again later. That'll be
uh,
like season 4 of Home Life or something.
sounds good. We'll chat.
Yeah.
Um, All right. Well, as we're wrapping up here, Ali, I just want to say thank you for being such an awesome interviewer and being open as you
Mhm.
are. I would have expected nothing less than for you to be open and with a little extra wit. And so, yeah, thank you for participating in this. For folks who want to be connected with you, hear more about what you're doing, what are you working on, and how can people be connected to you?
I'd say the fastest way, I mean, people don't just have to connect to me for like career purposes. I know a bulk reach out to me for that. But after this, feel free to talk about anything else that amuses you. Instagram is great. So I am at aliang.co, but I know Matt will send that out more efficiently. So my Instagram DMs are always open. Whether you want to talk about tech, if you want to further that discussion, or if you're looking to switch careers, I'm a career switcher, so I always love to share that experience with others. But yeah, feel free to reach out through there. We can chat about anything. Yeah.
Awesome. Gosh, that's quite the invite, Ali. So I hope some people take you up on that.
Yeah.
As Ali said, I'll put these her contact info and whatnot that she provides to me in a simple link in the show notes of this, so you can access it super easily. And yeah, that's the plan. So as we're wrapping up, here's some quick reminders. This podcast, Home Life for Extraordinary Impact, is a project coming out of Home Life Design Lab, which is my kind of main thrust. Me and my wife are really on this mission to help 100 million people design a home that they love, and that's an audacious number of people, and that's what we're shooting for. And what we're doing is having interviews like this, but also taking these interviews, splicing them up, analyzing them, interpreting them, distilling the insights in such a way that it becomes super easy for you to understand, but also then, apply to your life so that you could make it just that little bit much more delightful for you. So that's the plan. And you can read all about that on the newsletter at homelifedesignlab.com. So go check that out, sign up. There's an option to become a premium subscriber to that, which will get you more access. It'll also be a way for you to pay to support this whole big audacious project. And also you can become a premium subscriber to this podcast. Again, more content and a way to support this process. So hope you've enjoyed listening to this. Thank you again, Ali, for being an awesome guest. And until next time, everybody. Bye.